Welcome to It's the Economy. The Reserve Bank on June 8th put out rules under which banks can enter into compromise settlements with defaulters, borrowers who have not been able to pay. Now, some of the rules look very healthy. One, the person who gave the loan should not be the person who structures the compromise. All compromise settlements have to be approved by one level of bankers higher than the committee which structures the compromise. I mean, there are many such rules, but what has attracted maximum attention is that Reserve Bank refers to compromise settlements with willful defaulters. It says that every such case will have to be approved by the board. That's one rule they've put in. Also, willful defaulters too may be given a loan after 5 years. Now, all this has stirred a lot of opposition from unions and from the media, especially the willful defaulter clauses. To give us more perspective on these new rules, I have with me two veterans from the banking space, Mr. S.S. Mundra, former Reserve Bank of India Deputy Governor and former Chairman of Bank of Baroda, a 4-decade veteran banker. Also joining me shortly is Mr. Rajneesh Kumar, former Chairman of State Bank of India. Good morning, Mr. Mundra. Mr. Kumar should be joining us shortly. But first, let us get to basics. Are compromise settlements with defaulters always allowed? Has that been a long-standing practice because the courts take time?
Let me first start with the, overall thrust of this circular. As I look at it, I think two things come out very prominently. The kind of message which RBI is giving. Number one, there is a lot of now delegation at the board level, at the banks level, that how you frame the policy. Because while you have mentioned, Reserve Bank of India has put certain basic requirements, which you mentioned in your opening statement about, how the structure should be and all that. But very many detailings are left to the boards and to the individual banks. So that is, I think, consistent with RBI's stance for quite some time to give the functional autonomy in these areas. Mm-hmm. Second, I think the point which is coming out very clearly and where we talk about the willful defaulters or the fraud account, that, after all, it is very important to recover the money. If there is a way to recover the money, that should be a priority. Get your money, because money today in hand is worth much more than what you get after a prolonged litigation. So while all other things will remain in place, but money coming should not be denied. Now, see, as far as what you mentioned, this 5 year is not something new. Okay. If you go back, this RBI Master Circular of 2014 or 2015, where the whole gamut around the willful defaulter is mentioned, who should be called as willful defaulter, what should be the penal action. So, very, interestingly, there was a provision, even in that circular, that if there is a case of a willful defaulter, then no additional facility should be granted to the willful defaulter. But interestingly, willful defaulters were, defined. There were 4 or 5 things. The first and foremost thing was that someone has the capacity to pay, but is not paying or unwilling to pay. So to my mind, it is something very, very abstract and is very difficult to really establish when it comes to legal or any other scrutiny. And then there were other things like diversion, siphoning, taking to the unrelated activities, falsification of accounts and all that. Over a period of time, Lata, if you will notice, barring the first category, that capacity to pay, but not willingness to pay, rest of all the categories have already moved to the category of being fraud account. Okay. And we have seen many instances that any such thing is treated as fraud. Okay. So that leaves us only with the first definition of being willful defaulter. Okay. And that is where I am coming to your question. Why one is treated as a willful defaulter? Because one has the capacity to pay but not paying. Now, if today someone is offering to pay, what is the capacity is, of course, subjective. But if let's say the capacity is 70% to pay, and that is well established, and someone is prepared to pay, then it is meeting that very fundamental requirement of being willful defaulter. And then, if he is paying, he is no more willful defaulter. He has corrected that. I would look at, from that angle.
Okay. I want to now read the rules again, but Mr. Rajneesh Kumar, there is no provision in the new rules to forgive a fraud account, isn't it? This is only for the willful defaulter that Reserve Bank says you can enter into a compromise settlement. Is that correct?
No.
Yeah, Mr. Mundra, go ahead.
No, Lata. It is, if you read the circular, it includes both.
Okay.
Willful defaulter and fraud. And that is what surprises me. I'm surprised around the second part, not on the first part.
Okay, so you would be okay if they said that you can enter into a compromise settlement with willful defaulter, but not with a fraud account.
You see, I want to say not, but on a conceptual level or even as a philosophy,
Yeah.
You are treating someone as a fraud.
Then how can you enter into a compromise?
And then you say, I also enter into a compromise, something which...
so this must be oversight. You think this is an oversight on the part of the Reserve Bank?
No, I don't think RBI does the oversight. But here, there are a couple of things. Like, there is only one sentence. There are two sentences around this whole framework.
Yeah.
There is one sentence is in the first part that
Yes.
any such thing should be only done by the board level. And second, then bank can also enter into the similar settlement with the willful defaulter
Okay.
first.
Yeah.
What will be the penal action and all that? Nothing is mentioned.
Yeah.
Now, let me take 2 more minutes, Lata. With this circular, they have withdrawn 3 circulars. If you look into the circular. So first circular was as old as 95,
Yeah.
which probably was defining the original framework of willful defaulter. Other 2 circulars were subsequent, but they were really not very material to our discussion. Interestingly, these 2 circulars, you can still, the later 2 circulars, you can still navigate and find them. First circular, you cannot find them. So we don't know what is that circular and what is withdrawn.
Okay.
But as far as the master circular of 14 or 15 are concerned, RBI is silent. So those are still very much in place.
Yes.
It means all those penal provisions and all the cooling period and everything is still applicable.
Yeah,
if you look at
I was told that by somebody connected to the Reserve Bank, not exactly in the Reserve Bank, that willful defaulters cannot be entertained for 5 years. Although that is not mentioned in this, they said it was mentioned in the 2015 rules. Mr. Kumar, do you think any banker will go through this? I mean, until now, have you seen any banker, if this rule was there in 2015, have you heard of any banker even willing to compromise with a fraud or willful defaulter? I mean, won't you worry about vigilance, guys?
There are 2 aspects to it. There is something called time value of money and being guided by the commercial decision and the responsibility cast on the bank management. So obviously the responsibility cast on the bank management is to recover as much money as possible and as quickly as possible. 100 rupees recovered today is not the same thing 100 rupees recovered after 8 years. So I think even if you look at the bank's balance sheets and how much money they have recovered, anywhere between 40 to 50% gets recovered through one-time settlements and compromise. And fraud account also, even if there is a settlement, the banks cannot withdraw the case.
Okay.
There is no provision for withdrawing the case. So law will take its own course, and it is for the investigating agencies and the courts to decide that what penalty to give for the fraud committed.
Yeah.
About default and willful default, I have always maintained that this is something which probably is unique to India, because in other jurisdictions I have not seen such differentiation.
Yeah. I get your point, sir. I mean, a person has money and is still not giving is something difficult to even prove, as Mr. Mundra said.
And this is also guided by the fact that the promoter, their lifestyle doesn't get changed.
Yeah.
But their company may have a liability of 1,000 crore. So which promoter has the capability to, now if you go by his lifestyle, you will say he has the capability to pay.
Yeah.
But I doubt whether they have 1,000 crore.
Yeah. They may have the capability to pay 100 crore, not 10,000 crore.
I think RBI circular, I think most of thing it is reiteration.
Okay.
And many banks, at least for State Bank, I can say that if they were to now say that whether we are compliant or not, they would be 100% compliant with these guidelines which have come. And there are processes.
Okay.
There is a decision-making process
Yeah.
where all options are evaluated.
No, so 1 minute, 1 minute. Do you think any banker will have the gall, the guts, or even the desire to give a loan to someone who has been declared willful defaulter in the past? Even if, I mean, I'm a little surprised that the question of again giving a loan is even being raised by Reserve Bank. Not in this circular, but the previous.
You are very right, whether a defaulter or a willful. Once your credit history is blemished, nobody has the guts to give loan again. Because you don't know if the second loan goes into default, what will happen to you? The people who took the decision. So getting a loan from the banking system today is not easy for even who have a clean credit history. So you may have an enabling provision of 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, but it will be more on paper. In practice, I doubt whether any credit committees or board will have the courage to give loans to people who are previously who have defaulted. And I'm telling you, like even there are many industrial houses who defaulted, were in difficulty through IBC, they have settled their money. But when they go today to any bank for any financial assistance, the doors are closed.
Absolutely. I was told that by some of the bankers whom I tried to reach out to. Mr. Mundra, I couldn't get RBI to react to the many questions that came. So today you represent RBI. You tell me, I mean, what sense does this make to say you can give a loan after 5 years?
Lata, this provision was always there in a little different shape. I think I would really take time, read their master circular, which used to be still in prevalent either in July 2014 or July 2015. Now, very interestingly, as I said, there are 5-6 categories of how the willful defaulter should be classified, as I mentioned.
Yes.
As I also mentioned, barring the first case, that is the capacity but unwillingness to pay, rest all are over a period of time are treated as fraud. Let's park it there. Interestingly, there is a provision there, penal provision, that no additional facility should be given to willful defaulter. That is first para. Second para, cases where there is a diversion, siphoning, falsification of account, wrong statement or whatever, blah, 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 they should be barred for 5 years for floating new venture. This provision is as old as 9 years now.
Okay.
If you read it, now if you really read it legally, it means if only willful default is created because of the first thing, that is the capacity to pay, but unwillingness to pay. And if you purely go by this language, it means that bar of 5 years is not applicable. In that case, even that 5-year bar is not applicable.
Okay.
But in more serious cases of diversion, siphoning and what not, it is mentioned that they can be given loan for floating new ventures after 5 years. But I think it will be really a challenge for any banker. Any banker will have to be very, very courageous to really use these provisions and still go for new financing.
Okay.
What to talk about willful default and diversion and fraud? You tell me today, even if there is a group and there are several entities, and even if one account becomes NPA, that too because of the genuine circumstances, there is a reluctance to even accommodate the other companies in the same group.